Switch 2 is really here, or it will be just in a short few months. Actually, not even a few months. It's right in June. But yeah, like, this is a lot to be excited for, because the Switch 2, I mean, it's a big deal. Back in February, we got that first look, and we got to see exactly what the Switch 2 finally looked like, and just a confirmation that this thing exists. Obviously, we knew that there was going to be a successor. We just didn't know what exactly that successor was going to look like and what it was going to be called, officially speaking, anyway. Because in that video that I made in February, while it was about looking at that sort of first look and dissecting that trailer, it was also more so talking about the leaks and what we knew so far. Nothing was officially confirmed. There were a few things that were, but nothing was totally concrete. However, everything that we've seen in those leaks, at least from what I remember, seemed to have held true. And today, or yesterday, by the time that you watch this, it will be yesterday, we got to finally see the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct, where we got to really take a deep dive into all the specs and everything it has to offer, and all the games that are coming with it. And I'm just super jazzed about it. Honestly, it kind of took me by surprise, because I had a few expectations or things that I wanted to see from the Switch 2, but I wasn't sure if it would actually match that, and there was actually a couple of things that made me go, oh, that's pretty damn cool, and it made me really excited. However, at the same time, there was also a lot that made me go, I don't really know about that one. So while I'm like super jazzed about it and super hyped about it, there's still quite a few major, massive reservations I have about it, and we're gonna discuss all of that. But first, let's sort of go through Direct and sort of dissect each piece and each segment one by one. So Direct opens up right away with the new Mario Kart, and that is not Mario Kart 9. Well, I guess it would be 9. Like, I don't know if they're going to continue numbering it after that. But anyway, it's Mario Kart World. Emphasis on the world, because there is a lot here. It's a lot bigger, and that was one of the surprises, one of those things I did not expect at all. Like, it took me by surprise, let's just say, because it's not just like any regular Mario Kart. It's not like your average Mario Kart where we kind of expect like the same thing. In fact, I sort of only expected it to be kind of the same as the previous Mario Karts, just maybe slightly more iterative, better graphics, that's about it, kind of more of the same. I didn't expect it to be a massive departure from Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, but I'm so glad that it is, because we're finally getting something new. I'm glad that they're trying to take that creative leap and that creative step forward and sort of go somewhere else with it. Because honestly, like, if it's the same old thing over and over again, yes, we're Nintendo fans, we're probably gonna buy it anyway. It's just nice to also be able to have something new and creative and have something that's different, because then you could just be like, well, if I can play my Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, why would I ever want to buy that? And that's kind of how I've been with at least a few games here and there, especially when it comes to like Mario Party. I'm like, I'm good with one Mario Party per system. I don't need a second one. But hey, we'll talk more about Mario Party, by the way, in a bit. So the biggest thing about Mario Kart World here is, as the name implies, it's seemingly open world. It allows you to not just be in those small isolated arenas and go into those small little circuits and just be able to play within those sort of bounds. No, you can actually go out of there, you can actually travel off of there and just keep exploring the world that they've built. It almost feels like it's a Forza Horizon game, except it's Mario. And it's just, I think it's really cool. And also, as we talked about in the February video, during that February Direct, we saw that this would have actually 24 players, and that came true. We were able to do 24 player Mario Kart. It's pretty insane. Graphically speaking, it's not a massive upgrade, if there is one at all. It looks pretty much the same to me when you're comparing it to 8 or 8 Deluxe. But it's, you know, that's not kind of what I'm coming into Mario Kart for. I mean, yes, if that was all there was, if it was pretty much the same, then I would expect that sort of upgrade, but no, they're actually doing something more creative with the gameplay system itself, and that's what's important here. But yeah, as exciting as that is, I mean, there's so much that we probably still don't know. In fact, I think they want to show off more gameplay and stuff, and they're going to do that in its own specified Mario Kart Direct. So, yeah, guess we're looking forward to that. Then next, we also finally got to see what that C button was about. In the original video, in that first look, they omitted that C button, but we saw it in the leaks, we knew that the C button was for something, and what we assumed it was for their chat functionality, and that's exactly what it is. It's for their chat functionality, and it's a lot better and more robust than I thought it was going to be. I mean, it's not like it's a massive upgrade, like it's nothing like revolutionary or something that we haven't seen before, because if you look at it, it basically looks like you're looking at Discord, which gets you to think, like, why not just implement Discord into it to begin with? I don't know, but I think it's better than nothing, and especially when you're comparing it to what we had available on the Switch One, which is basically no chat functionality beyond the mobile app, and who was using that. It was just making something that's god-awful to something that's good-ish, I guess. Good enough. Quite honestly, I'm probably not going to be one of those people that uses this functionality very much. I'm probably going to be using Discord like 90% of the time. It's just easier to do. It is more flexible. It's just better. There's no real reason, at least for me personally, to be using it. However, I do think there are use cases for this chat functionality. It's for people who aren't always connected to Discord, that aren't sitting at their desk and have like different, dongles to connect to their computer and to their TV if they want to listen to their headphones. It gives them the option to be able to just sit back on the couch, play with friends directly on the Switch, and just be able to chat through there. So I think that's really cool. But it's not like it's just like a regular chat. And so when they first showed it, you get this little screen, and then, a row of your friends, right? That are little tiles on their names on the screen. And at first I was like kind of reserved about that, because I was like, oh shoot, I don't think it's a good thing if the chat functionality is going to be that it's sort of restricted to this, where you can only play on that small screen if you want to share and talk to your friends, and then that's it. But then, as I was going through the Direct, I was happy to learn that actually no. There is more to it, and you can sort of change the screen. You can go in full screen. It's really up to you, and it's just so nice to be able to have all those different options. And then obviously we have the green screen stuff where they have the cutout. It's not the greatest, like the zoom sort of functionality, right? I'm actually surprised that the Switch 2 could actually handle all of this, though yes, it doesn't look great, but I think it's better than nothing. And it's just, a lot of these things are, like you're gonna hear me say a lot in this video, is it's nice to have. But then when also, it's just like really cool, like if you're playing Mario Party or something, you can have your tiny little cameras. Obviously, they are trying to sell you this additional peripheral, which is the Switch 2 camera. And yeah, it feels a bit gimmicky, but I mean, when has Nintendo not felt gimmicky? Personally, I don't know if I'll buy it. It's not really useful to me, but it's a cool thing, a cool feature to include nonetheless. Moreover, on top of all of these things, right, aside from the game chat, we also got game share, which is a little different to what we talked about or we saw in the regular Direct last week. Can't remember what they're called. Too many titles, too many things. I don't remember. But the game share function basically allows you to be able to share your games via the internet through your Nintendo Switch Online membership with, several friends. I'm not sure how many exactly, but you can sort of share that screen like a kind of remote play situation. So think about it kind of like with the PS4, where you basically are able to sort of pass the remote over to somebody else, right? So like if you get stuck on a section in a game, and your friend has or doesn't have that game, but like you want them to help you through, your party chat, they can sort of view your screen and sort of take control of that. But it's not just limited to that though. I'm not entirely sure if the PS4 worked the same way, but from what we see here, it basically not only allows that, but it also allows for you to be able to play like multiplayer games where you don't need to have several people on the same couch with you. You can share it the same way, and they can be playing on their own console through your screen, if that makes sense, right? And it's not like they take over your controller and you can't do anything and until they're be in control totally. No. You guys can be in control simultaneously, so you can be playing multiplayer games together without them actually owning the game. So I think that's pretty awesome that they're doing that. I would have expected them to not have ever included that. But then again, there are a couple things where it makes you go, when we're talking about game sharing that we saw in last week's Direct. But that's a discussion for another time. But also, please note that this isn't available for like every game. It's only a select handful of titles, because of course it is. It's not, they don't want you to be able to just game share any game. They want it to be those few. It's better than nothing, especially coming from Nintendo. I guess we'll take it. Now, onto the actual Switch 2 itself, the actual hardware and specs. This is going to be a 7.9-inch display, which compared to the 6.2-inch display, it's quite the upgrade. Like, I mean, when we see them put next to each other or on top of each other, it oddly doesn't seem like it's that much bigger, but really it is. The screen size is quite a big difference, and I think it's going to be one of those things where you're not going to be able to really see it until you actually put them side by side and have them both in your hand. Then you'll be able to. But I also think that you'll notice, especially when you start to experience it yourself and actually be playing games on there, seeing it on this screen probably doesn't do it proper justice. I mean, maybe it's because of the bezel display, and especially when you look at the OLED, it's kind of like, it doesn't look quite as big, but it is bigger, and yeah, you know what, who cares? It's a bigger screen, I can't really complain. The screen resolution is actually going to be an improvement over this one as well, because we're not sticking with this 720p, we're going actually to finally 1080, which I feel like is something that is like, yeah, it's about damn time. But the crazy part that I didn't expect was that it says that it's actually going to be able to hit up to 120 FPS. Caveat here, I don't think it's actually going to reach there. Maybe sometimes, on occasion, it might hit there and try to target it, unless they have some crazy hardware. I don't really know. I personally don't think it's going to. I mean, look, things barely hit that sort of frame rate, even on the current hardware that we have on better tech. So yeah, I doubt it's actually going to hit that 120 FPS. It's more of a marketing thing. However, I imagine and assume that it's going to be at least a stable 60. And that's all I need, right? I don't really need it to be to 120 FPS. I just need it to be 1080p 60 while in handheld. That's all I'm asking for. But the crazy thing that I actually really wanted to see was, one, obviously the handheld screen, but two, more importantly, at least for me, more than probably a lot of people, was being able to play this in 4K docked. Yeah, so you'll be able to actually play in 4K 60 for certain games. Again, it's probably not going to actually maintain the frame rate, it'll try to hit it, but I mean, comparing to the regular Switch with 1080 60, it's quite the big upgrade. But for certain games, obviously, I think there's going to be certain trade-offs depending on the type of game. For Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, you're actually going to have two sort of modes. You're going to have the quality mode, that is the 4K 60, or the performance mode that will do 1080p 120. So yeah, it's not like the 120 is limited to just a handheld. It is going to be available for, you know, docked as well. Provided, obviously, you have a 120 hertz display. Yeah, I mean, obviously. But we'll get more into the games themselves in a minute. Hardware-wise, yeah, we've got all of those. And then we've got, you know, not only the USB-C port at the bottom where it normally is, but also one on the top for extra peripherals, like now the camera. But then it also makes me think, I assume that there'll probably be other peripherals that you can attach to it, anything that works with USB-C. But also, it's just really handy when you're playing this in handheld mode and you want to be able to connect your charger to it, but not have to be at the bottom every time. Being able to play from maybe like the front, it just gives you more versatility in that way. And then also being able to sort of flip the console upside down if you need to for whatever reason. It's just really cool. I mean, I think the whole thing just adds a layer of flexibility, you know, and just things that they've really tested. And the Joy-Cons themselves, like, we talked about this before in the February video, during the February Direct, and, you know, I think they're a massive improvement, at least from what we've seen. We're going to have to wait and see, you know, once we actually get our hands on it to really notice that difference. But I'm glad that they're taking those steps to actually improve it, because whatever we've got here with the Joy-Cons, like, these aren't working. These are not great. These are probably some of the worst controllers I've ever used, period. And I don't even have stick drift, so there's that. And now I'm glad that they're actually taking those steps to prevent stick drift. It's kind of probably because they went to court for it. Personally, I've been lucky to never have had that issue, at least with my Joy-Cons, but that's mostly because I barely use them. I don't want to use them. I only use them sparingly if I absolutely have to, but I really don't like using them. But here, they're not like the best things. I'm still probably going to use a Pro Controller over it 9 times out of 10. But I'm just glad that they finally improved it, because you have, the sticks, they have a sort of hollow effect, and it gives them less of a chance to drift. Except for when you're using it as a mouse. No, the sticks aren't going to drift, the actual Joy-Con will drift. Like, literally drift. And I think that's a pretty interesting feature. We talked about this before as well. We assumed that's what it was, and it's confirmed. Yes, it will work as a mouse. So certain games will allow you to sort of use it as such. There are a few games that are going to be a bit more gimmicky, that will sort of take advantage of that. But then there's going to be some that sort of use it. I don't really see many use cases for it outside of these few instances, but it's again, a nice to have. I imagine, yeah, we see some footage where we see Metroid Prime 4 Beyond being used with it. So I assume that we'll probably see this work as well with, the Halo Master Chief Collection, if that ever arrives on the Switch 2. And so if it does arrive on the Switch, the Master Chief Collection, I assume that they'll have that implementation as well, which will be really, really cool. And now, obviously, instead of it being, you sort of pop this off and you slide it back on with the rails, which isn't a terrible design, it's much better, I think, now that we have the magnet design. Because honestly, these things I think people can be really rough with and then forget, like, this has a latch. I don't know, I'm sure they've tested it over and over again and people have somehow broken this. I feel like a huge worry would be that with the magnets, they're going to be easy to pop off, and they're just not going to work well, and what if they lose their whatever. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. I think it will be, I think it's a much better option, because it will stay in place until you press that lock, similarly to this. However, you're just going to be able to pull it. You don't have to slide it off, right? It's not stuck in between something. It's just, you pull it, and that's it. And then you snap it back on. It seems, I don't know, to me, like a much more reliable option. But at least for storage, the base model isn't going to be that traditional 32 gigs that we've been used to for so many years. Thank God. Because now it is finally 256, which, again, it's about time. Like, yeah, it's nice and it's fine when you've got like an SD card, when you can just slot that in, it's really no problem, because it's not like Switch games are huge, massive games, right? They're maybe 10 gigs at most, 20 gigs at most. They're not that big. But obviously it makes sense that they are giving that, because I assume that obviously Switch 2 is going to be, the sort of data for them is going to be much bigger. And then also just having that space is just, it's a standard by now. It's been a standard for a while, so yeah, it makes total sense. But on to the SD card thing itself, I'm not entirely clear about it. I don't really quite understand it, but what they talked about was that you'll be able to use an SD card express and not the regular SD cards that you're able to usually slot into your Switch. They're specific. It's only limited to those specific types. If that is something that you are looking forward to using, and just buying a SD card, make sure you get the right one and that you're not using that one. But if you're wondering, oh well, how am I going to move all that data from my Switch to my Switch 2? Well, that is where they are going to make you basically use their online features, and sort of store it and save it through the cloud to transfer it over. And that's kind of where we get to where I am reserved. There's going to be more to talk about still, for good and bad, but one of the big things is really, and this isn't a new thing, a new topic, it's just been something that's been floating around in the games industry as a whole, but it's really the sort of future that we're heading in, where physical media is disappearing. Right, this is a very good example of that, and I feel like the Switch 2 is just pushing it much further. I know I'm part of the problem because 90% of my library is, digital. If you look at my physical games, that's pretty much it. That's it. You have maybe a row of PS4, few PS5 there, and then mostly PS3, most of which I have sold, and then you can't see it, it's off screen, but I have like a handful of Switch games. That's it for my physical collection. I mean, look at this. The entirety of all my physical Switch games, maybe apart from one that might be slotted in the Switch right now, is this. That's it. That's all I've got. Everything else is digital. I have my reasons for it, and I want to be able to go physical, but there are more and more reasons that just keep getting added to why owning physical media isn't as accessible as it used to be. And this is only making that problem worse. So obviously it's the transferring between the two, right? Now it's like you won't be able to take that data, put it through an SD card and put it through there. Obviously it's easy enough and most people do it, but it's just having that option not being available anymore kind of really sucks. And that's kind of the main point that I'm getting at here. Now, let's talk about some of the things that they didn't talk about, that they don't make specifically clear. Actually, there's quite a few things that they don't make specifically clear, and that's something that always kind of annoys me. A lot of marketing things and whatever, especially when it comes to Nintendo, they just don't speak plainly. They always sort of dance around and deliberately choose their words carefully. I know that's the whole part of marketing, but like when you sort of watch it, you're like, oh, that's cool, but then you watch it again and then questions start popping up. And so here I'm going to try to answer them as best as possible. If there are any more questions, I will try to answer them in the comments below. But here's what we're still unsure about and what they failed to mention. So briefly, they talk about, their game cartridges and how you're going to be able to play your games. While you'll still be able to play your full Switch 1 library on your Switch 2, it's fully backwards compatible in that regard. There is more to it, because when you're playing actual Switch 2 games, sure, we still have the digital and physical media, but there's a problem with it. What they're not telling you is that it's going to retail for $80 USD. I'm not sure if this is going to apply to all games moving forward, but definitely Mario Kart World. One can only assume that it's also going to be applicable to every other game moving forward, but I don't know. I've heard some other people say that no, it's just for this one game. I'm not entirely sure. That is really insane, especially when you convert it to Canadian. I mean, that is already the price of games here in Canadian, and now you're telling me that it's that price, but in USD? My goodness. Not only are we raising the prices, which is insane as it is, but then also, when we're looking at the digital copy versus the physical copy, people are obviously going to want to go for the digital one. Why? Because it's $10 cheaper. It incentivizes more digital sales. That's kind of the problem I was talking about, right? Like, preservation is really going out the window at this point. It's insane, and it's really, really sad. And then moreover, right, these cartridges, if you do get it physically, there is no point to it at this point, at least from what I'm seeing. They don't make this explicitly abundantly clear. But there are going to be some games where you are able to play them normally. They're just the regular cartridges, the regular little games, and you slot them in, and it's physical. It's the same way that the Switch 1 cartridges work. So those will be the game cards. But there are also something called game keys, where it's basically like you have the cartridge, except it has no data on it. You don't download the data from the card itself. It just allows you to go into the eShop and then download it from there. It's like, what? You're basically turning it into what is the point of it? It might as well just be a code at that point. And they're trying to disguise it as a physical copy. I don't like that practice at all. And that is probably one of the biggest things that I hate about this entire thing. Like everything, there's so many cool things about this Direct and things that we found out about the Switch 2. But this is one of the things that I'm going to be totally honest and totally clear about. This is an awful, awful move. And I despise it. Okay, hold on. This is actually me from the next day. There's something I realized that I probably should talk about. In regards to this game key, game cartridge thing, it's actually not as bad as I made it sound, mostly because I didn't quite understand it, and that's kind of an underlying problem. There's a lot that we don't understand, and they're never really made abundantly clear, but it's actually not as big of an issue, simply because, with the Switch 1, we actually did have something already like this, where you had, like, a physical copy of a game, or physical copy of a game. You'd have the physical case, a physical box art, and you'd open it up, and they would give you a code, and then you could basically redeem it from the eShop and download it from there. Problem with that was that once you did it, it would be locked onto your account. Now, with this game key, it's going to be different. The most important thing here is that it's now available for resale, and I think that is something that is really worth mentioning and really worth talking about, because isn't quite as bad. It is an improvement over the last thing that they did with the Switch 1. However, I don't really see the point of any of this, to be quite honest. Like, if you're gonna have physical media, have physical media. If you're gonna have digital, have digital. I don't really see the point of this in-between sort of thing. Okay, but whatever. I mean, look, I guess it's not as bad as I thought it was, but still, could be better. Now take it from here, me, from yesterday. So yeah, we have all that. It's more expensive, the games are more expensive, and then obviously they are really, really incentivizing digital stuff and online stuff. And it goes further. Not, the actual physical media itself, but the online situation. Yeah, because with the Nintendo Switch Online expansion, not just the regular Nintendo Switch Online, but the Nintendo Switch Online expansion, the one that's, I think, $50 Canadian. Editor me, double check that. Yeah, that one. It's not too bad of a price. The regular one definitely is pretty damn good. I think it's about $20 a year, and then the Switch Online is $50. Again, editor me, correct me if I'm wrong. But they really are trying to push it with some new expansions for previously owned games and Nintendo Switch 2 editions. With an active Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion membership, they will be providing some upgrade packs. So that means that you are going to have an upgrade path for games that you've bought on your Switch 1, and you'll be able to upgrade to it for free. I'm putting it in air quotes because free. And so games like Mario Party Jamboree is not only getting an expansion, but also an expansion that is locked behind this, that's locked behind the Switch 2 edition of the game. Then we're also getting upgrade packs rather, for Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I think it's really cool because now we're going to be able to play them in 4K 60. It's going to look beautiful. It already looked beautiful. It's really damn impressive on the base Switch. How did it even run? I have no idea. But we're going to be able to play those through this online membership. Then they proceeded to talk about upgrade packs for other games, like Metroid Prime 4 and Pokemon Legends ZA. Those two games, they specifically do not mention that they are actually included in the online thing. They just mention that they will have upgrade packs. They also do not mention how much they are going to be. It's only 2 Zeldas that are going to be on that expansion pack, but the other 2, Metroid and Pokemon, will be separate, and presumably the other games that will have Switch 2 editions. Now, how much that's going to be, again, it remains to be seen. But personally, I don't want to spend anything more than maybe $10, $15. I think it's $15, that's fine. More than that, I don't think it's justifiable. But moreover, a good thing that they've added to the Nintendo Switch Online is the GameCube emulator. This is one that a lot of people have been wanting for a very long time, and I'm happy that they're finally being able to get it. I'm probably not going to make much use of it because I feel like there are other ways to do that even better, but hey, it's good. And guess what? We finally have a modern way to play Wind Waker that isn't just like on the GameCube itself or on the Wii or the Wii U, right? Like now we get to play it on the Switch. Though I will say it's not the best way. I would have preferred if they did a straight port of Wind Waker HD with Twilight Princess HD and sort of bundled the two. But, Nintendo does what Nintendo wants, and I guess this is better than nothing. But then that gets me thinking, maybe we'll see a Wind Waker 4K and Twilight Princess 4K later down the road? Maybe? But either way, I think it's good enough, like, it allows people to play it, and I assume it's going to be in the 4K resolution. Obviously, it's not the best, because you still got that, the old aspect ratio, and then you're playing it through this online thing. It's not the best. I don't know how well it's going to run. But, hey, it's there, it's an option. I guess it's worth celebrating still. But then also, it's not just Wind Waker, we've got several other games. I know some friends of mine are excited for Fire Emblem and Chibi Robo. And yeah, if they're excited for it, I'm excited for them. Now, what else is coming to the Switch? I mean, I guess aside from Mario Kart World, there aren't really any other first-party titles from them that's launching day one that are going to be a launch title. I guess you could maybe count Donkey Kong Bonanza, which will be dropping a couple weeks after its release, so maybe it's technically still a launch title. But beyond that, I don't think there's anything else that's first party that is, Switch 2 specific. But there are a lot of titles that are third party, a lot of which are coming day one. Examples include Elden Ring. Yeah, that's actually going to be running on the Switch too. I don't know if it looks as good as it looks on PS4, but hey, you know what? It's good enough. Like, I'm surprised that it can even work. But then again, Hogwarts Legacy ran on the Switch 1, which was pretty surprising. It doesn't look amazing, even on the Switch 2, but it is an improvement, and yeah, it's also coming here as well. The recently released Joseph Fares game, Split Fiction, which I'm really wanting to play. I haven't even played It Takes Two yet, can you believe it? But that is also coming to Switch 2 as well. It doesn't, again, look quite as good as it would on modern consoles, but it's playable. It's totally good. Yeah. And then you also have Street Fighter 6 that it looked really cool, and then they're also including amiibo support for them. Like, I haven't played that one yet, but like if I do, maybe I'll buy that one. But then no, I'm not buying amiibos. No, I'm not spending more money. We got tons of other games which you can look at the full list below, but some other standouts were Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition, which looks really, really good. Like that one actually looks like PS4 level game. I know it was sort of broken at launch, but they've improved it over the years. It looks surprisingly good on there. And then Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. I am very envious of those people who are going to be playing Yakuza 0 for the first time, especially because it's a Director's Cut. If you're interested in Yakuza 0 Director's Cut, you're not going to be able to play it anywhere else because it will be a timed exclusive for the Switch 2. It doesn't mean it's going to be just on there forever, thankfully, but yeah, like if you were really hoping to play it elsewhere, unfortunate news, yeah, it's going to be locked to the Switch 2 for the time being. We also got Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4, Bravely Default, Flying Fairy, HD Remaster, Hades 2, I wonder when that's getting out of early access, because I really want to play it. I mean, I could technically on my Steam Deck, but like, yeah, just give it to me already. And we got Civ 7, which makes total sense to be on there. And then especially now that we have the mouse support, it's perfect. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4, Borderlands 4. I don't particularly care about Borderlands 4. I haven't been given enough reason to care about it. It looks kind of the same, to be quite honest, but it's going to be on there as well. Final Fantasy VII Remake, Intergrade, that's also going to be on there. Makes total sense that they would put it on here. Kind of something I was expecting. Star Wars Outlaws is also going to be on here, which is actually kind of surprising also. And even more surprisingly, what we saw for a brief few seconds was Hollow Knight Silksong. Like, okay, yeah, okay, sure. Hollow Knight Silksong is going to be on the Switch 2, and it's going to be on 2025. Xbox also tweeted that it's going to be on 2025, but no. I ain't believing it until we see it. Until it's right in my hands, I don't believe you. And of course, everyone went wild for that. Yeah. And then towards the end of the Direct, we also saw another game that I was like, what is this? At first, I assumed it was like, I thought maybe it was a Capcom game, and then I was like, no, this looks more like a From Software game, but I was like, nah, it couldn't be. Then From Software appeared, and I was like, holy shit, it is. And then I was like, nah, it can't be. This isn't Bloodborne, is it? And so from what I remembered from Bloodborne, I was like, no, this is different. And I was like, wait a minute, are they doing a Bloodborne 2? And no, they're not. But they are doing the Dustbloods, which, I mean, it seems really, really awesome. I don't know too much about it, even though I'm probably not going to play it because, I'm not a Souls player, but it looks really sick, and it seems like it's, I guess, a spiritual successor to Bloodborne. Maybe a little bit of a slap in the face for, Bloodborne fans who wanted Bloodborne itself, just like it with a 60 FPS update or, a remake or remaster somewhere, just being able to come back. But hey, you know what? It's going to tie a lot of people down. I'm not entirely sure how many Souls players play Switch games, but before the trailer ended, it showed, the release of 2026. And then I was like, surely this game is going to be available on other platforms. They're just kind of showing it off here just because. But no, it is only going to be available on the Nintendo Switch 2, which is, it's a choice. Simply because I don't know how many Souls players are into Nintendo. I could be wrong. Maybe Souls players are just the average Nintendo enjoyers. I have no idea. But if it isn't the case, well, it's definitely going to sell a whole lot more units now because it's specifically for the Switch 2. Though I wonder, is it going to be on there forever? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, Bloodborne lives on the PS4 and it has forever. So who knows? The one that I really had my eye on was this one. Yeah, it's showing off Zelda, during the events of Tears of the Kingdom, which we all know about. But there's a twist because it seems like wait, is this a game for Zelda doing that? And it is. I was like, oh my god, is this an expansion to Tears of the Kingdom? No, it's not. It's its own game. But I was like, oh, okay, so they're doing their own Zelda game, kind of like what I said before. And I actually, funny enough, mentioned this in my Echoes of Wisdom review. This is something that I was like, oh, this would be cool if they did it, and they're doing it. But the moment we see this gameplay, I'm like, yeah, that's it. That's it. It's Hyrule Warriors. Yes, give me more of that. I know a lot of people dog and hate on the Warrior style games, especially Hyrule Warriors. Like, it's not canon. I don't care what anyone says. I love that. Give me more of that. I'm gonna eat it up. And I'm super excited. Now let's talk about what the Switch 2 is actually going to be priced. I don't think I mentioned that yet. No. Did I? Yes. No, I did not. So you'll be able to purchase it in two ways. You can either get the base console on its own, nothing else, for $449, or you can get it bundled with Mario Kart World for $499. Honestly, I think this is the better option to go with that if you're going to pre-order it, because you are actually going to be saving 30 USD if you buy it this way. I mentioned the price of Mario Kart on its own. It's hella expensive, so yeah, this is probably the better way to do it, and they're obviously doing it to incentivize sales of this one. Now, pre-orders will be going live on April 9th at 12 p.m. EST. I had read a couple of things, and might be a little bit confusing, so make sure you double check that and that everything is going smoothly. But if you are looking to pre-order it, that is the window, and you want to get it as soon as possible, because obviously there are going to be scalpers. Now, Nintendo is actually trying to find a way to combat that by making it so that you need an active Nintendo Switch Online membership, so that you can actually get that invite and be able to do it. I was able to do it because I have it, but it sucks because it's like, yeah, it's good that it's kind of combating the scalpers, although I don't think that's going to be that effective. But what now it's doing is it's also isolating people who don't use the online and haven't been playing online for many years, or people who haven't been playing with Switch or Nintendo in general, and are only just getting on it now. It kind of isolates them, which really, really does suck. Honestly, they could have just done it where they're limiting it to one item per customer, as they are already doing. But yeah, that's the way they're doing it. Again, they're trying to incentivize the Nintendo Switch Online even more, which, yeah, it's pretty damn scummy. Anyway, I think that's everything for the Switch 2 and that we know so far. I don't know if I left anything out, but if I did, please let me know down below. We'll clear things up and we'll talk about it. But hey, if you're interested in watching any more videos that are kind of like this, go ahead and hit subscribe, because every now and again I'm going to be doing more videos like this, hopefully, alongside, you know, my regular reviews and stuff. But anyway, if you enjoyed that video, leave a like, it really helps out. And as always, happy gaming, and I'll see you soon.